All right, it looks like we are live. So hello everybody out there who may be tuning in. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. Tonight we are going to be playing in session 4 of our Oriental Adventure Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign, The Ashes of Heaven. Sadly, we are missing one of our players tonight. Carol, if you're out there listening, we love you, and I hope you're having a great time. And we're going to miss you, but we'll see you next time whenever you come back around. However, I am joined by my 4 other lovely players, and I will let them do their introductions. Then we'll touch on a couple of points of business before we get this ball rolling. So, without further ado, Alan, why don't you take us out?
All right, my name's Alan. I run the channel Check for Traps, and I am playing Soaring Crane, who is a Kensai monk who is on a journey of self-discovery, and he's brought his best friend from Wudang Mountain, his ancient temple home, with him on this adventure, and has since made new friends on this quest that they have taken up, which keeps just kind of rabbit holing and just becoming more and more quests. But he doesn't seem hampered by it. Actually, he welcomes it as it just kind of gives him more life experience. With that, I'll pass it off over to Scott.
Hello, everyone. I am Scott, and I am playing Jean-Wu Tsukiko. And I am that intimate friend of the other gentleman, Alan, here. And doing my best to remember everything that's going on. I haven't really played all too much lately, but definitely excited to get back into it because I have absolutely loved this game. I've kind of taken hiatus off of other games to be like, all right, and I only have a couple that I'm still playing in, so kind of cut it down, and this is one of those ones. So I am greatly excited to get back to everyone, and I love the snowfall on the back of your screen there, Dave. Just noticed it. To you, Dave.
Thank you very much, and I'm Dave. My channel is Mornblade Gaming, and I've been playing Longway Luke, a Ronin of the Ram Clan, and he's an individual that wants to trust and wants to help, but in the world, Ronin aren't viewed as such, as honorable people, and so he has found a troop that is accepting of his blade and trust him with in a battle, and he is more than happy to fight by their side and up to and including death.
And last but certainly not least, Jeff.
Yes, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel called Encounter Balance. Mostly just got some games over there. I also have a podcast that I do with our great GM and host here, Jeremy, called The Dudes of Yore, that we also do with soon-to-be Chad Nick, which we are going to be recording episode 3 this Thursday. So it should be out hopefully within a reasonable time frame after that. So be on the lookout for that if that interests you. And I'm playing Kenji, an ice and water sorcerer, who is trying to rally people to help his kingdom, which is under attack, and also sustaining like mortal injuries every session.
Just about it seems. And sometimes not even just this game. It seems to like now transfer over to other games somehow, Jeff. But yes, I have links to all of these gentlemen who have YouTube channels listed in the description down below, as well as one to the podcast that Jeff mentioned, The Dudes of Yore. Definitely go check all of these individuals out and give them likes, subscriptions, things like that. So yeah, just a couple other points before we kind of get started here. Like I said, we're playing 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, but there is a rather large part of the combat system that some of you may not recognize. So there is a kung fu system that is built into this particular setting. And if you kind of want to know more about the ins and outs of that, definitely go check out session 0, where we kind of discuss it at great length. But essentially, it just gives them kind of some extra options during combat. Yeah, I don't really want to say too much more about that than that, just in the sake of time. But yeah, so it hopefully lends enough flavor to the game that it is interesting. But we'll see. It's worked out pretty well so far. As far as anything else before we get started, yes. So this is an adult channel. These are adults, so far as I am aware, at least. So there will be adult language.
Can't prove nothing.
Exactly. I changed the dates. So there will be adult language. There will be times when the topic will venture more into the mature. So if those kinds of things bother you, then you really should just see yourself out. Otherwise, thanks for staying. I'm excited to have you, and hopefully this will be another good session. This game has been a lot of fun so far, largely due to the fantastic players that I've had, so no pressure, guys. So can you guys think of anything else that I need to cover other than just a recap before we get started?
And I think that's it, bro. I think you got it.
Sweet action, Jackson. So, recap. Let's see. It is the dead of winter in the Tsitian Empire, which is the Asian equivalent of my homebrew world of Rostfin. And our heroes were, for various reasons, in the northern outpost in the dragon lands of Maichaki, whenever it was sacked by invaders from the north, Jakoshians, or very Nordic-style barbarian people. They have come down through the mountain pass with an enormous force, and it looks like it's probably going to be a pretty dire type situation. The players' characters have escaped and fled, Maichaki heading deeper into the Empire with the intention of warning everyone that this is coming. Last session, they found themselves in New Chilang, a city that was being expanded greatly. It had become the new royal capital for the Mantis Clan, and a palace was in the process of being built. They went to meet with the royal architect, the man they were told who was in charge, who kind of gave them a little bit of a frigid reception, because these characters are not samurai, and sometimes taking the word of a person who's not a samurai is not always in the best interest of the royals. So they were asked to prove themselves by going and meeting with the leader of the elves, who had some kind of issue with the Mantis Clan recently. So they did meet with the leader of the elves, who likewise bid them to do a favor for him. And do a favor for him they did. They wandered into the forest to the east and found a grove of moon bamboo, white bamboo that grows out of bone. And at the heart, they found a necromantic dryad who seemed to be kind of the cause of the problem, as well as several of her bamboo blights. They very, very handily dealt with her and her little creatures. And I think that's where we left off, if I'm not mistaken. So, do you have something, Dave?
No, I was going to say indeed.
Okay, perfect. Good. So, once again, we find ourselves in the halls of a magnificent palace, following this mural, this watercolor style painting that stretches on for feet, meters. And depicts all manner of scenes, many of which we have witnessed thus far. And as the pan of our view kind of slows on one particular section of this imagery, we see the snow falling down heavily on a section of bamboo that has grown up around a tiny village that has been decimated, where every living soul is passed from this realm and nothing more than bone. The bamboo itself growing straight from their bones. And as we focus on this part of the painting, we notice that the snow itself actually begins to move and sway. The bamboo itself begins to rock gently as the winter winds whip this village, and we pass into the painting to see our 5 heroes standing somewhat bloodied and victorious, but perhaps with questions about how or why this may have happened. And for at least 2 of them, Jin and Sugiko, you both understand that this quest, this leg of the quest at least, has brought you into close proximity with death and evil spirits. Some of you direct contact. So you know that while it may not be immediately necessary, that it will be necessary to cleanse yourselves, your souls, of this contact. Jin, some of your ritual scrolls, I believe, had been tainted in this conflict, if you will. So, the 5 of you find yourselves here, feeling possibly a little tainted by the evil of this place and the situations that kind of surround you now. What would you like to do?
Okay, just to kind of recap here, because I'm showing on my sheet here that I have like a boost, like negatives to like insight, perception, and that's what you were kind of talking about or hinting to just a little while ago. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, because I do remember at some point like spells or something affecting certain probably like intelligence, I think. Was that medicine?
I think several of you had
like debuffs.
Mm-hmm. You had the water from the moon bamboo splash on you, if I'm not mistaken, and effectively that is unholy water for all intents and purposes. So yes, if whatever it was that we had decided on, whatever I had decided on, were the penalty from that is still in effect currently.
So panting heavily, very close to death himself, Suki kind of like just whips off his blades, any of that water, blood, and ick. Kind of leans on him. What the fuck was that?
An evil spirit, tainted with corruption. I believe its vileness has even seeped into our very souls, making us unclean. We will need to cleanse ourselves of this evil. At least our least we'd be tainted by it even further.
What does that entail? Here and now?
Is what time of day is it in? Can we tell?
You guys had journeyed a bit out of the town, so it's probably only a couple of hours until dusk at this point. And you know that, again, it's the dead of winter, so that could potentially be a problem.
Do we have enough time to get back to the town?
You would have to book it.
Do we see any type of shelter around? What was this chicken?
This, again, she's kind of at the heart of a village here. So, I mean, there are definitely ruins of structures that are left. There's not a whole lot of them that are even remotely intact.
Well, I don't think we'll make it back to town before the sun sets and we freeze. So it might be best if we find a place to huddle up, some type of windbreak, get a fire going. At least spend the night to kind of at least heal ourselves a little.
Yes, the gods know I could use a little bit of a rest. Just one night, I think, would do me well. We can gather our strength and return full and awake back to the elf. I think that would do us all favors.
Okay. So, how soon, knowing how to perform the cleansing ritual, like, how soon would we need to perform it? And,
You know that it's one of those. It's one of those things that it doesn't have to be done right away. It doesn't really have to be done at all. It's just your spiritual balance is at risk, essentially. You have a corruption on you that is going to start trying to sway your soul towards the evil side of the spectrum. If you don't do something about it, you don't think it's not a very rapid thing. So it's not something that you have to do it immediately. But if you are staying, kind of one of those things where you might want to just because you've got the time.
Looking at the consistency of the moon bamboo, is it really look like bone, or is it just kind of a bleached bamboo?
It looks more like a bleached bamboo. It still has some green color to it, but it's kind of a grayish white.
You got a visitor, bro?
Ah, gremlins! It'll probably burn.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's see, where was I?
And I would imagine that if we kept close to a fire, rotated a watch, we should be all right.
Yeah, I would hate to get caught out in the woods during the winter time. We don't make it back. At least here we have shelter and we can hold out for the night.
Now, this foul stench upon us, is this something that you can deal with, Jin? And I know if anyone here is equipped to deal with this on a more spiritual level, I know it's you.
Yes, I believe I have the necessary components in order to perform the ritual. I would prefer to perform it at a shrine or a temple where the spirit energy is a lot stronger. Here it is very weak as the corruption has tainted everything around us, but if we stay here the night, I should be able to perform the ritual.
Is there even an old dilapidated shrine in this little village? Most Asian villages, even small ones, had some type of little shrine that the villages like prayed to. Is there something like that here? Maybe something that we can hold up in, and then most of them have little tiki huts too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a small shrine here in this village, but it's little more than a place to kind of put incense, and there's a single prayer wheel, as well as a place for a donation box that has long since disappeared. So it's little more than like a 5x5 little covered area. It's probably in better shape than most of the rest of the town, but even it has been somewhat overtaken by the bamboo.
All right. So before noticing all of my companions are injured in some shape or form, I just kind of go through my satchel there, and I produce the last 3 healing elixirs that I have concocted before we started this journey, and I will offer them up to my companions who are hurting, which is going to heal for, each one will heal for 2d4 plus 2 HP.
And Luke actually looks to the others, checking to see how they're set up first, needing and so on. He's not in that bad a shape.
So I take it we headed over to like the shrine? Is that what's happening?
No, I offered up. I had 3 potions of healing, so I basically offered them up to anyone who needs some healing.
I think Suki would kind of wave it off, knowing full well that we probably have a little bit of time to kind of rest and relax and kind of recuperate anyways, knowing full well that the dangers of the wild, we may just need those in case of a pinch. But he would just kind of, I'll survive. You yourself in sparring matches have beat me up more than that. Than that.
So, Alan, whenever you do what you can to consecrate this shrine again, and then work your understandings of the spiritual balance to try to right the taint that is upon the 5 of you, what does some of that look like?
So yeah, I imagine that Jin goes over to the shrine and kind of dust off any sort of debris or leaves or anything that's on it, kind of clears out the surrounding area, as this probably hasn't been swept around here for quite some time. Pulling some incense out of his bag and lighting those, he sticks those just in the ground around the shrine to try to start to cleanse the air. Not having any coin to offer, he will pull out just a small teacup, and he sets it near the shrine. And he pulls out just a very small, probably no more than a cup of 2 of sake that he had been saving for a special occasion. But what better occasion to offer it to the spirits, as he pours it into the teacup, not for himself, but for the spirits themselves. And as the the little smoke trails are coming up, he pulls out a small fan and he just begins to hum a mantra. And every now and again, he just wafts the fan as he kind of sends the incense across the way, and the leaves just kind of blow with it. And each time, it's almost like the sound, even though he's not producing the sound, everyone can kind of hear like the sound of a deep drum kind of just like beating in the distance as it's just kind of thrumming with each of our heartbeats, as the spirit realm is coming into contact with the material plane, in the sense that everybody can feel like their spiritual energy, like their body, their astral projection, if you will, is synchronizing with the world outside of the material plane.
Perfect. Take a point of inspiration, Alan. And those of you who had been tainted with this evil, the evil that had transpired here of these twisted forest spirits, the feeling washes over you of cleanliness. Whether or not you are physically clean is another matter. But at least spiritually, you have been rinsed of any soil. And about the time that this wraps up and the light begins to fade from the sky, you realize that the temperature cools rapidly as the winds from the north pick up again, and the snow begins to fall, illuminated by the light of your fire outside of the shelter that you were able to secure. And one of you, I'll take a volunteer, whoever wishes. Okay, Scott, saw your hand go up. So Scott, Tsukiko apparently is on watch at the point where you have kind of wandered away from the shelter just for a moment or two, maybe on patrol. And a bit of the snow kind of lights upon your hand, and you look down and realize that it's not snow, or at least not all of it. Some of it is black, and some of it is ash.
Knowing full well that there probably wasn't a volcano that blew up anywhere nearby. He would look almost dumbstruck upon the soil, pretty much upon his hands. This smudged, like he kind of wipes his hands and it just smears, just to confirm that it isn't snow, as it tarnishes and blackens his hand. And he thinks back to the village that they just ran from, that was being burnt. And morbidly for a second, his mind almost goes to, who is that a piece of? That's burning in that village that we couldn't save? Is this ash from the countless people that couldn't get out, from the homes that they used to live in, the town that was prosperous, that is now more blood soaked than anything? And it almost kind of reaffirms his notion that we need to get this information along. This could help. If it's raining ash here or snowing ash here, then it's probably snowing ash in the village, and could possibly be used as influence to further convince the people in the higher up that this isn't normal. And he would kind of look around and see whether or not it's how bad it is snowing this ash. If it's really bad, then the wind just happens to be right, or maybe the barbarians moved along and are burning other villages as they head towards this way.
As Tsukiko kind of investigates further, he notices that it's not just a solitary breeze that seems to blow in this ashen snow. This black snow seems to be falling everywhere he looks. And for every 10 snowflakes that he sees, it's easy that there is one of them that is tainted with soot.
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up there. I'm not sure if I got all of that. Anybody else have them stutter stepping?
Okay, so essentially one in every snowflake seems to be tainted with this soot in some way. It seems to be fairly widespread.
He would make his way back to the makeshift camp, and kind of he would definitely tell everyone that it's snowing ash, and the only thing that I can think of is that this is coming from where we were. We might not have the option of staying the night. And he would kind of put it out there as like a vote. If this much ash is coming down, then either it's far worse than we thought, or there's more than we thought, or they're moving faster than we thought, and the cold is not affecting them as it is us.
How many bodies did we surmise were strewn throughout the village?
The village here that you're at currently?
Yeah.
It would probably be 3 to 4 dozen, give or take. Just people. There's also quite a bit of livestock and things of that nature that are kind of spread around.
Suki, what is your Mantis Clan, right? Suki was Mantis? Yeah. Suki, what is customary for Mantis Clan burial?
To the best of my knowledge, it came down to your own personal beliefs and what deity you followed.
Based on the shrine, what would you think?
Well, this shrine here is more of a totem for well-being, good harvest and crops. The well-being in most small villages, at least in my clan, when you start a new village and you raise your first, it's always for prosperity for the village, and then from there it would grow in your shrines. This one, if I recognize correctly, is more fertility for rice harvest and fishing and hunting. But anyone who follows that usually would not go for cremation, as if they do follow this deity to the whole, it would be you give your body up to the soil after you die, and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So your life essence, your energy, is then converted and replaced with the plants, who are then feed the animals, who then feed the next, and the cycle continues.
Well, with such a large number, I think it's only fair that we bury them, but unfortunately, with so many bodies, I don't think that would be the time allowed. And hopefully this doesn't sound disgraceful, but maybe we could just drop them in the well and bury the well. It's a thought, because it would be a quick way of giving them back to the earth. But you have a good point. We might need to rush and have more urgent matters, but their spirits too linger.
I cannot argue against your reasoning. And in fact, I am more than certain that any spirits of these people and their ancestors would be more than happy that we did something for them than nothing. Perhaps a pyre may be the best, just so that way we don't... This much death will stagnate the land. It will create poison, not fertilization.
And while we would be adding ashes, ashes do help to fertilize the soil.
That it does.
Rebirth. Okay. Well, he looks over to the pile of, it's probably quite the stack that following the ritual. And while Suki was on watch, he had been hacking at bamboo to help center himself. And he's probably got quite the pile going by now. So he starts setting out just a long pyre to, he's never created one, but he's imagining that it needs to be a somewhat flat stacked surface. So he's quickly sort of doing that. And that could be that's true. The bamboo would be okay. Then what about one of the old buildings?
There's definitely enough leftover ruins and things that you could easily build a sizable pyre out of it.
Okay, so he then just nods, and then he goes and he starts picking up the bodies and trying to reverently carry them to one of the structures that seems appropriate.
Now, I would guess, only because it was prevalent in so many cultures throughout the world, that as he was laying them out, as Crane or Jin does not have money, Suki usually does. And he would go around the smallest pence that he could find in copper, I guess they would be, and he would be putting coppers over the eyes as tradition in most cultures.
Yeah, you could certainly do so. The only break from normality, I guess, would be that these are already skeletons, that there's not really a corpse to speak of. But I suppose that the tradition would still hold, maybe in the eye sockets. But you can certainly do that.
He finds a way of securing it in their palm or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure that each of them has a send-off.
So Jin would be concerned about their hun, or their soul. So, in sense that if their soul is not put to rest, they would rise as angry or hungry ghost. So he definitely wants their souls to pass on. So Jin would he would actually break out as they're getting this pyre together. He would actually break out his calligraphy set, and he begins to work the ink. That's basically like a little ingot, but as he rubs it, it'll actually turn into liquid ink. And then he brings out several prayer strips, and he dips his brush in, and with grace, he basically just writes out several prayer mantras that then he will go and then stick on to the pyre. As the pyre burns and the prayer strips are burned, it will actually help release their soul from these skeletons so that they can actually pass on into heaven.
And per tradition, as the fire burns, Tsukiko kneels to the ground, taps his forehead to the ground 3 times. Amen. Tofu. Standing up, he looks around with the ash falling on all of us. kind of walks over and brushes it off of Jin's shoulder. We need to decide whether we are going to wait out the night and guarantee that we are here in the morning. Or, I'm sure, much to Kenji's liking, we move out into the winter and force our way back to the main city. Last time we were out in the snow, Kenji did not fare too well.
As we complete getting the bodies, and then Suki is over there talking to, speaking, Luke kneels down and lays his helmet to his side. He reaches out his pack and he lays it out, and then he brings out the sashimono for his clan, and he brings it up taut, and he kisses it and sets it out. And he bows. You hear him whispering something. And he takes the sashimono, puts it to his forehead, and then he touches it to his heart before he folds it back up and puts it back into his pack. And as he stops, he leans his head back and he lets the ashes fall. And the ashes start falling onto his hands, and he brings his hands together. And he just wipes them on his face and across his forehead. And he takes out the mask and he puts it on and puts on the helmet. We should go tonight. And I would imagine that his face actually looks almost like black with white flecks somewhere here and there, but underneath the mask and the helmet.
Perhaps surprisingly, I can't say that I agree with you. I'm not sure that wandering through the wilderness in the dead of night, half dead, is worth a couple extra hours. If something happens, I won't be ready to defend myself, nor you. Already on the edge.
And Tsukiko would kind of shake his head, and, like looking at his own battered body. Yet again, twice tonight, another point that I cannot argue against.
We do not want any help by dying in the night.
What say you, Jin?
I would agree that if we won't be of help to anyone if we are in ill shape of ourselves. We should stay. We should stay the night. We have shelter here.
Then we rest.
And then Luke just walks off determinedly and picks up one of the lit pyres and goes over and lights the building on fire, and then goes down to sit next to the and watches it burn with his katana across his lap.
And as the four of you rest in this desecrated village, doing your best to set right the wrongs that were done here, you add your own ash to the winter sky Night passes uneventfully, though there is an eerie feeling that clings to this place, at least if you wander too far from the shrine. But you manage to escape the evening unmolested. And though you know that the sun has risen because of the change in lighting, you cannot find it in the sky as this snow continues. Over the course of the evening, it looks like at least a foot to a foot and a half of snow had fallen, now blanketing everything. But you know that there is a path, though it is somewhat obscured by the bamboo that had begun to overtake it. It is still the fairly the easiest choice to make as far as a direction. It is the least dense option that you have available to you, traveling back in a westernly direction towards the town that was formerly known as Atarashi, which is now known as New Chilang. Is there anything that you guys wish to try to accomplish before returning to New Chilang?
Was there anything originally on the way here that we saw, or?
No, you were led part of the way here by an elf guide who left you at the edge of the moon bamboo grove.
Is he waiting there, or did he go back?
No, he is not there.
I got nothing.
Yeah, beyond definitely being weary of our, being very alert on the way back, I think that I can't think of what else Luke would be doing other than just making sure that we're safe on the way back, we're not being watched, those types of things.
In the further that you move west, further away from this village, the sense of unease and immediate danger wanes. And you find yourselves with some amount of relief that has begun to kind of overtake you, though you do realize there is still quite a danger that is looming on the horizon. In this case, possibly even falling from the sky itself. And as you get closer to New Chilang and come around a few bends in the mountains and the foothills, you see smoke and fires, the light of fires, rising up from New Chilang.
Sorry, repeat that last part again?
You see smoke and the light of many fires rising from what you can see of New Chilang. It's still off quite a bit of distance, but it's unmistakable that that's what you're seeing.
Is there a high vantage point of some type of mountain hill ledge that we can look down on the city?
Absolutely.
As soon as I notice the smoke, I would absolutely bring up to people and maybe circle around. If knowing full well that the smoke is coming from that general area of where we need to go and where the city is.
Yeah, and with a small change of your course, you can basically gain some higher elevation and see a better vantage point as you also get a little closer. And you can see that what you might have feared at first is not to be true. That the New Chilang itself, the city, does not appear to be burning. It appears to be coming from a number of sizable campfires that are situated around the perimeter of the city, of the partial walls and things of that nature. And that appears to be where the smoke is coming from, though not the ash that is necessarily falling with the black snow. The other thing that you see that accompanies these large fires are a large amount of tents and individuals moving about with some bit of organization to them.
Can we see any sort of clan banners?
You're still a little far out right now. You can definitely see that there are banners present and that they seem to be greens and yellows. So your guess is at this distance that they're probably mantis, but again, it's hard to make out any actual iconography on them.
So it doesn't look as if the city's under siege.
That would not be the way that your characters would interpret it, I don't think.
Well, that's a relief.
As I was just about to say. Shall we continue?
Yes, but let us be on our guard. We don't know what the situation is here. Although there are many camps, we don't know if this is a hostile presence or that of a friendly one.
Did you say that all the camp seems to be in the front of the village? Is there a back entrance?
They're kind of scattered about in this area because there's not a lot of flat ground here, even though it is by the river. But I mean, you could try to come in by the docks. You could. There are certainly places where this force is thinner that you could approach the city from.
I do believe that, like, just to avoid a possible confrontation, would definitely suggest heading more towards like a thinner part. If nothing more than less people to startle and less arrows that could possibly be accidentally shot. So I guess start heading down the hill.
You have something you wanted to add, Alan, or no?
Oh, I was just going to see what Kenji thought.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
So you begin to head down towards the river where Nuchi Lane is spread out before you, and you make your way kind of skirting around a bit to avoid the larger concentration of these individuals. And as you begin to get closer, you can tell that the banners are in fact Mantis Clan banners. They belong to a myriad of houses that serve the Mantis Clan. And almost all of the individuals that you see are Mantis Clan, essentially military. They're samurai and they're, I just lost the word, but essentially they're consorts that come to fight for them. And they're people that make their camp run, you know, the servants and things of that nature. And they're here in considerable force. It definitely looks like they are beginning to try to put together a force to stop an invasion, as if from the north. And the soldiers kind of eye you as you come in, but it becomes readily apparent that you are not a part of any invasion force. And they let you go by without so much as a word.
Any officers around, or somebody that looks like they would be in charge?
Certainly.
As we kind of like just pass by. It doesn't need to be a high ranking, but Sugi would, as the one person that seems to be giving kind of orders to somebody, he'd kind of stop and the normal hand and fist, of open friendship, and what is going on?
He says, "We have been told that there is to be an attack, so we have marched here through the dead of winter to prepare for such a thing."
He would kind of look around at his friends and be like, "At least they heeded our warning. Thank you, good sir." And would kind of proceed on.
Okay, he kind of nods without really adding much more to the conversation. And the five of you press on, eventually walking in through the gates of the city under a brand new Torai, the long, tall red two posts with a flat kind of curved top to it that are so similar or so commonplace in Japan. You pass beneath one of those into the city, and it is bustling, even here within the walls, with samurai kind of milling about, all of them bedecked in their fine armor of the Mantis Clan colors, with their mons blazonly on display. Very proud to be here serving their clan for whatever the call may be. Shortly after you have arrived, Yoru will actually excuse herself. She's going to go and talk to her halfling friend, the merchant here in town. Try to see if she can't come to the bottom of this dagger that she has been carrying, that she was just recently informed was made of black jade. So she's going to be heading off to go do that kind of on her own as the four of you press on. Where would the four of you like to head?
Probably back to the city planner there.
But it's the inn is much closer, Suki, and perhaps we could stop there first before meeting with the architect once again. To meet
Yes,
over such an empty stomach. I mean, he wasn't even hospital. He didn't even offer us any food or drink last time.
There are food vendors on the street.
And if you remember correctly, when we met with him, there wasn't food to be had. He didn't have anything to offer you. Can you just eat with your eyes as we walk along to this?
We could go to the inn first and speak with the elf leader.
He speaks wise words.
It was his task that we just completed. He should be our first destination once we treat with him, show him that the work has been done. Then we can return back to the city planner with all operations successful. It'd be quicker and more efficient that way anyways.
I just didn't want to appease his stomach.
Yeah, Jin just kind of like bows before Kenji and says, "Oh, you are so wise beyond your years."
See, now you've given in to him, and this is what's going to happen every time. He's like a small child. You need to cut him off, or he constantly goes at this. I know. I've been playing this game with him for years now.
Yeah, Jin's already like gone. He's like, "Come on." He's already like, you guys are still talking, but he's already walking.
And Luke's actually kind of contemplating to himself, this is kind of a momentous occasion, because this is the first time I think Kenji and I have actually agreed on something.
To the inn to feed his stomach most of all and complete our quest as a secondary happenstance.
I guess he does have a figure to keep.
Yeah, that of a growing watermelon.
So the four of you, without Yoru, head to meet with Orinotuo, the effective Kuriyama of the elves of Rentakekokyu, a somewhat stoic figure of a little bit of imposing stature. You find him after inquiring when you reach the inn and manage to get yourself a table once again. You can see that where the inn before was mostly empty, aside from the elf in yourselves, it is now quite the opposite. There are effectively Mantis Clan soldiers, samurai and their consorts, that have taken up most of the extra space here in the inn, as you are told that they have in most of the inns here in town. But you are able to find a table, and the leader of the elves eventually makes his way to your table once again.
Hey, Jeremy?
Yes, sir.
Real quick, is there any sort of running water or a trough out front?
Yes. Yeah, you can easily find that kind of thing.
Okay. Luke kind of hangs back, and then he stops for a moment and takes off his helmet and begins quickly washing off the ash from his armor, and removes his mask, and then also washes the ash off of his face, because for the moment it's not appropriate. So, but yeah, he's kind of like washing the ash off, so that kind of a quick look, so he makes himself a bit. So I'll be a little bit delayed coming in.
Okay. So Luke has kind of dropped back to make himself more presentable, and you have saved him a seat at the table. And Orinotuo approaches and sits down, and he kind of looks you all over and studies your faces for just a moment, and he nods approvingly. It seems that you have accomplished the task I set before you. I can see it on your faces, on your souls. This is good. I believe that you wished to drink sake when the task was complete. In celebration, is this correct?
Is there ever really, truly a bad time for sake?
Yes, he says with zero humor. But I do not believe that this is one of those times.
And I would agree.
Very well. How much do humans typically drink for this kind of occasion?
That one there, and he points to gin. All of it. Myself, will only take a couple small glasses.
Very well. He orders 2 bottles, one to be set in front of Jen, and one for the remainder of you to share. He pays with coin that you see are gold, basically just not so much a round circular coin, more of a rectangular shape. He lays them out, and these are not imperial gold. These are something far older. And it actually causes the innkeeper to pause for a moment before kind of considering the source from which they came, bowing graciously and then backing away. He kind
Yeah,
of turns. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I would imagine too that Jin probably already has like a dish of dumplings that have already been
Of
devoured.
course.
And as the innkeeper, as the elf is paying, he probably looks at this plate as he's just handing the money, and then Jin just kind of still with like at least one dumpling in his mouth would just be like, "To give is to cleanse the spirit."
About the only thing you've been giving is yourself a larger waistline. You didn't share any of them.
Well, then we'll need another order, and he just kind of like motions for another order to be put in.
And you see Suki kind of rifle in a little bag and pulls out his hand and goes, "And I guess you're paying for them as usual, huh?" And he slaps 2 gold down on the table. That should cover most of the dumplings and any extra.
And as the food, steaming hot to help ward off the cold, is brought to the table, along with the sake, which is also served warm, you are all left with time to eat before Orinotuo, who has been sitting by patiently, kind of clears his throat. So, it is done, yes? You discovered the source of the moon bamboo? Or am I mistaken?
Yes. A strange creature dwelt in a ruined town. Seemed to be in control of it. Almost like a mother to some twisted, corrupt children.
What manner of creature do you speak of?
She was like a dryad, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Any would it be like an Oni dryad?
No, your assessment would be that she was a dryad, possibly a normal dryad at some point, but was corrupted and tainted somehow. That she was a forest spirit that had been corrupt.
Thinking about it, that might have been the fertility god that they praised to that just went sour.
It's very possible.
Interesting turn of events. But he would kind of look up. It was a bamboo dryad, or at least one that lived off of the bamboo. Something tainted not only that land, but also her. Which then turned her on the people that were there.
A dryad who has aligned herself with moon bamboo. It is troubling. Still, if you have defeated a dryad in her home, no less, then you have my thanks, my gratitude. I will do what I can from here out to work with the Mantis to ensure that they do not cull the wrong trees any longer. I will leave a contingency here in Atarashi to advise them. In addition, as a show of my personal thanks, I would like to present you with the gift that was intended for the royal architect whom I was supposed to meet with if the negotiations were to go well. I only have but the one, but you deserve it. And he kind of motions to an individual who has been standing nearby, relatively still and quiet. Another elf who moves forward and presents a wooden box that is highly decorated, lacquered wood, but looks very, very old. And he places this box down on the table in front of Orinotuo, who Orinotuo kind of pulls his sleeves back and moves his hands across the top of this box and opens to reveal an item inside of it that looks like this. This finely crafted belt is made from the lining of a red dragon's stomach, cured, dyed, and embossed with swirling flames. An enormous jewel of an unknown variety adorns its front, emblazoned with a grand phoenix. This singular gem is flanked on top and bottom by fire opals, though some appear to have lost their luster. He kind of shifts the box so that you each can see this belt. He says, I present to you the girdle of the Fire Guardian. This was inherited, I should say, by one of my people about 100 years ago, give or take. It would be my honor for you to take it. Use it for whatever comes your way. He closes the box and kind of slides it further across the table away from him.
It would be our honor to receive it on behalf of the city planner and the negotiations well done. We thank you for your generous gift.
We are most humble.
He bows his head to each of you in turn, and he says, I am thankful that the situation has found itself a peaceful solution, at least as peaceful as we could hope.
Yes, it is highly advised that you have any of your priestesses or priests visit the village in there. It will, our friend here did what he could to purify the land a little, but it does need purification. And you will find a pyre that we built for what remained. We did not have time to bury them, but we did what we could.
What manner of village was this?
Looked to be a farming village. Human, and it was close to where your subordinate left us.
As he was instructed, yes.
Yeah,
If it is a human village, then it should be a matter left to the humans. But if they need our help, I will certainly lend it.
The spiritual force in that village is out of balance. I did what I could to begin the process of bringing it back into harmony, and I was able to ensure that the souls of that village were not lost, and they were able to pass on. But I fear if the corruption remains, that any life that is lost on that land will become trapped here and be unable to pass on.
I will send a few scouts to see if there's anything that they think that we can do. Well, it sounds as though our business has drawn to a close. And again, I thank you. And with that, he will depart and leave you to the rest of your sake and dumplings. So, once you have concluded your business with Orinotuo,
Are we going to have to roll him out like Veruca Salt after all those dumplings?
maybe.
Oh no!
Oompa
Wait, what
loompa
do I gotta roll a con save to see if I I mean a whole bottle of sake?
Keep them coming. Keep.
I threw 2 gold down on the table. That should buy a lot of sake and dumplings.
Mama.
Indeed, it did. There was enough to go around between the 4 of you, and then some, I would imagine. So, is the intention then to sleep it off, to stay here for the rest of the day?
I would imagine not. Kenji was pressed to see all of this done in post haste. So, I mean, I would imagine we would finish our lunch, but yeah. So Jin would look over to Kenji as we're kind of wrapping up here at the end, and look at the box and look at Kenji. And I think that it'd only be fitting that such a gift remain in your possession for the time being.
And Kenji kind of runs his hands across the top of the box. I will be my honor. That said, she'll try to figure out what it might do. If it best suits me, I would be happy to keep it, but would not keep it if it would do better in another's hands. But it will remain to be seen as I do some examining. In the meantime, though, I believe that we should carry on.
You finish your midday meal, and the intention is then to head to meet with the royal architect again, or somewhere else?
Yeah, I believe we were going to conclude our business with the royal architect and try to politely give us our 2 cents on what also has become of their behavior by not following the requests of the elves. That the moon bamboo is now starting to infest the woods, and if it's not good for anyone.
Okay. So the snow has continued somewhat, but it has greatly lessened from last night and a good part of the day as you walked back. And those of you who have kind of taken stock of what's going on here in Nuchi Lang, you see that though there are Mantis clans here that are preparing for an invasion, that it does not take a skilled tactician to to realize that they have nowhere near enough men and women to defend this town, much less to stop the invasion. So, with this somewhat dawning on you, you make your way back to the palatial building site, where you know that the man known as Tamaya Kuno, the Mantis royal architect, is likely to be. Once again, the Mantis guards stop you before you get too close. This time a little more fervently, and there definitely seems to be increased security. So as you approach, two of them kind of cross their naginata, and they kind of look at you crossly and say, "What's your business here?"
We made a deal with the architect, complete a task for him, negotiate on his behalf. We've come to report back the results. You should be expecting us.
There is a mantis among you, so I suppose there could be some truth to your words. Very well. They kind of motion you through. Once again, you are led to the same kind of courtyard with the room that looks out over it, though the doors this day are shut, probably to the cold, windy weather. And you're led inside to one of the adjoining rooms off of this courtyard, and are bade to sit down upon the ground with cushions. And you're made to wait for what would be an inconsiderate amount of time. It's probably well on an hour before the door finally slides open. An assistant, a servant, sliding the door open for the man that you have been waiting for, as he kind of re-enters the room, looking, at least in part, annoyed. Possibly at maybe just an interruption to an otherwise busy day. Who knows? He walks in and kind of looks at all of you, and then moves to the front of the room and sits down himself. Yes?
By the army forming outside, I see either you have decided to heed our warning, or you got another warning from someone else to confirm.
There were enough signs, and it made precaution necessary. Yes, I informed the Kuriyama of the need for soldiers here in New Chileng. And of course, he listened to me.
Looking around at the rest of the group, he's going to turn back and kind of shake his head and be like, "You don't have enough. Not even close to nearly enough."
We have the majority of the might of the Mantis Clan army, at least those who could march in the dead of winter. I had to beg for this. Surely it would be sufficient, he says almost dismissively.
Is the sand on a beach sufficient to stop a wave?
Have you dealt with the elves? That is why you are here, is it not?
We have, in fact. We've negotiated a deal on your behalf for your instructions. seems that an agreement has been reached. Be glad to know.
Excellent. Yes, I am glad to hear. Hopefully you have done so without bumbling your way through the negotiations, making a fool out of me or yourselves. Still, I have not heard any kind of complaint from Orinotuo, so things must have gone at least somewhat agreeable. He kind of eyes the box that Kinji is carrying. He doesn't say anything. Well, as you can see, there is much going on here in New Chileng as I forge a future for the Mantis Clan here. Is there anything else?
Just another warning that what you have outside is not going to be good enough. They stormed the beaches in thousands of boats. Your force out there is probably not a quarter of what we saw make landfall, and there was still more coming.
Luke kind of reaches over and calms Suki, and he says, I am sure the Master Kuno is a master at his craft. He's assured us his words will be enough for the people. And I kind of wink at Suki. These lives are in his hands now. His capable hands.
These capable hands which built are in the process of building the monument that you see outside. So yes, capable is an apt word for a man of your station, especially. Well,
By the way, I guess I should mention, in case you haven't been informed of the arrangement that's been made by Your Honor with the elves, you'll no longer be allowed to harvest the Eastern Sentinels. They perform a sacred duty, one of protection, and they are no longer under your domain, but strictly under the elves. You may harvest other trees, but not those. Be aware.
and how am I to know the difference between these special trees and normal ones?
You are a master of your craft, as you say. I'm sure you'll be able to make some distinguishing on your own. Also, you have a brand new partner in the elves that we so graciously negotiated. You wouldn't be too much bother to ask them.
Very well. Well, it was beneficial that our paths crossed, I suppose. Is there anything else you wish?
Real quick, wasn't it our goal to get to someone higher than him, but we had to go through him in order to get this audience?
I believe that is what had been discussed.
Okay. Yeah, so Jin, a little rose-cheeked from the sake, but seems composed, speaks up. Yes, there is a matter of audience. You promised if we settled the matter on your behalf, you would grant us an audience with the Yama.
He says, I do not remember making such a promise to you, especially not to a man who would display himself in such a manner publicly. That
Of course I remember it. I just said it.
It does not sound like something that an honorable man such as myself would lower himself to. Besides, there is no need for you to speak to the Kuriyama. I have already told him all that he needs to hear. It is better that he hears it from my voice than yours.
You are making a mistake, sir. You are going to get yourself and thousands others killed in the process. And it won't be by our sword, and the blood will not be on our hands. But your family will have to live with your disgrace when it does happen. Not making threats, just telling you how this is going to end. We saw the wave of these titans come upon shore and destroy and wipe out anything that stood in their path. That small little army outside is not going to do it. We took it upon ourselves to fight our way through winter to get here to warn as many people as possible. We have told you all. You have dismissed it for the most part, and will not even allow us to speak to someone higher up to portray to them a first-hand account of what we saw. Instead, we heard a partial retelling from you. So when the blood starts spilling, and it's wading its way into your building, remember that. Almost kind of trying to somewhat intimidate him into maybe rethinking his position.
Okay.
With calm words, I guess.
Fair enough. Intimidation is charisma based, so it should function.
It's not gonna be good. Actually, I'm using an inspiration here. That's better. 17.
He seems to contemplate what you're saying for a moment, though you can tell it somewhat irks him.
Well, seeing him hesitate, Suki would kind of like also mention me, like, you know, and furthermore, just remember, if you happen to make it out of this alive, you will be the one who has to answer for it. All of this, once again, is under your all-knowing tutelage. Make your decisions well.
He contemplates further, pulling at an imaginary thread coming loose at the hem of his robes. He opens his mouth to speak, but the sound of his voice is not what comes. Instead, it is the shrill ringing of an alarm bell that is then joined by others. And
there's your death bell. Will you answer it?
Taking our break.
Come on, it was his death bell.
So, we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute pause in our story. So, if you've got to go to the bathroom, go ahead and do so. Refill your drinks. Kiss your spouses. Smoke them if you got them. Whatever. Go for a walk. Thank you guys very much for anybody who may be watching this evening, for anybody who may be tuning in later on, and most especially to the 4 fine individuals who are joining me this evening. You guys are, as expected, knocking it out of the park so far, and I am really, really looking forward to finishing this up and seeing kind of where it heads next. So we'll be right back, and yeah, stay tuned, everybody. All right. I am back. Yeah, once again, I would like to tell everyone out there to please definitely go out and check for traps, Morn Blade Gaming, Counterbalance, and Dudes of Yore if you get a chance. Obviously, I am a part of Dudes of Yore, so there is some kind of selfish motivation in promoting that one. But the others, I promise, other than just being fantastic friends and wonderful players, I have no affiliation to their channels whatsoever. But you can find the link to them in the description down below. Certainly go and give them a watch. And thank you all for tuning in tonight, or whenever you may be tuning in. Could be very early in the morning. Because of viewers like you, I keep playing games. Actually, that's not entirely true. I'd probably play them even if I didn't have any viewers. But all of the views are certainly appreciated all the same. It's really an awesome feeling that there are people out there who find what we do entertaining enough to actually tune in. It always makes me happy. I'll give Scott just a couple more minutes here. Before we get the ball rolling again. It sounds like everybody else is back. We conclude the second half of session 4. The Ashes of Heaven. I think with future campaigns, I might actually go through and name the individual sessions. Seems like kind of a cool, what the cool kids do. But I haven't decided yet or not whether I want to put that kind of pressure on myself.
Well, you can always go back and rename it after the session if something stuck out more so than anything else. You know, because sometimes if you name a session before you play the session, it might give something away, right?
Very
so
true.
then you might want to wait. If you know what I'm saying. So I've seen it done both ways. I've done it both ways. So just depending.
It's a good point.
It can also be a nice teaser though, of like you put in like a certain proper name that's going to come up in the session, and it's like, yeah, that's like in one sense it's a spoiler because like you know that thing, whatever it is going to be involved, but at the same, if it's like something that the people don't know what that is yet, it can be like, ooh, what's that? Like I want to find out what that is, like even as a player.
Yeah. And Jeremy, you can pull off just like the movies do, where you actually say the name of the title in the movie.
Exactly. And you can just say it and give that small little amount of pause so the audience knows that you said it and they didn't miss it.
Exactly.
Because we're all Michael Bay deep down.
I think the best one was Family Guy that did a spoof on that, and Peter's in the theater, and just all these movies, and they say the title of the movie just somewhere in the movie, and then at some point it's like Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, and it's all like, that's why I'm Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, and it's all like, what the heck? Why would you say that?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
You accented that wrong. See, it's Superman 4, like FOR, 4 piece. Yeah, not the number 4.
Now it makes all the sense.
You just have to say it right.
Now it's at least somewhat palatable.
It's Superman, comma, 4 world peace or whatever it was. I can't remember.
There are some movies that are able to pull it off, and it doesn't feel forced, but sometimes it's just too much.
I don't know if you guys watched like the Stargate series at all. No, the movie was really good. In the TV series that they came out with, universe was a little off, but Atlantis and SG1, which was the one that got it started. They were really good at not only parroting like other shows in that, but also like throwing in the name of the show into the thing. It just played off perfectly well. I would give you examples, but I can't think of any off the top of my head, considering that there was 10 seasons of it, and I've watched every one so many times I can't even remember them all. It's just one big season to me. But
It's a long run.
Great series. Check it out.
Nice. Well, I think everybody is back. If I'm not mistaken, Jeff is hanging out behind the scenes, as it were. So we will go ahead and get this ball rolling again here. All right. So in the midst of negotiating with this terse individual, you heard an alarm ring out somewhere in the north of New Chilang. And then soon others began joining as the cry for alarm spreads through the city. And the Mantis Clan architect at first looks somewhat concerned and then nods. Well, yes, we were expecting this, weren't we? And without further ado, he turns and heads out of the room, calling for his guards. An assistant comes forward and kind of begins ushering you back towards the gates of the palatial compound.
Tsukiko, looking around, kind of looks at Jin, kind of nods his head and goes, "If we happen to see that man in trouble later on, I'm at least hesitating for a moment."
Do not taint your soul with such negativity. But in the meantime, we should see what we can do for these people. I think we all know that there are a lot of samurai here, but there are just not enough to turn the tide of this battle. One clan will not be enough.
Yeah, and the honor's lack of honor, the architect's lack of honor is its own reward. He will get his just rewards.
It just weighs a little heavier, I think, upon my own heart and soul. I haven't really been part of the Mantis Clan for decades now. I went to Wudon Mountain when I was young, but these are still my people. I will leave it up to you guys, whether we make our way down to fight or we fight our way out to further press the warning that we had started to give.
I could only call myself a hypocrite if I said we should leave these people behind, fight their own battles. As much as I want for word to be spread, for my own sake, for my own people's sake, I cannot in good conscience abandon one in need for another. After all this time and claim of such hurry I've pressed for aid. If we won't be the aid to a people in need, I can never expect another to be. If you want to stay and fight, you have me alongside.
And I value your fist and your knowledge and your spells. But as much as these are my people, we brought the warning. They have a better defense than the town before them. And as much as I would love to stay and fight alongside my people, I must decide whether it is pragmatic to do so, or to further pass the word along. This need, as you said, we need to get help from all to all. And if we all die here, especially us four, we know what is coming.
In that case, I will defer my judgment to you, to everyone else. Whichever way you guys would like to decide to go, I'll be glad to follow, whether that's to fight or to warn.
You have always had a much cooler head in these matters, Jin.
I believe we should see to the villagers, those that could not fight. We must see that they are provided safety, that they are able to leave the city while they have a chance.
I don't believe the architect had any intention of anyone fleeing. He believes he is safe behind these walls, and so are the people. I doubt they are looking to run. Once the killing starts, once the first barbarian reaches the wall, they will be ready to run. But do we wait for that time? Or leave it to them?
We must see past the obstacles, even if those who we wish to help cannot see past those that are right there in front of them. We should make preparations, as they will need to flee. Better we be prepared than try to do something last minute.
Luke?
He kind of pulls his katana out just about an inch, and then he slams it back home and he says, "I'm torn. I wish to fight, but I also wish to take the word forward. But I think we're onto something. I think that we are best placed in a position to allow a fighting retreat, because we realize that there is going to be a retreat. But we do need Yoru. So I think that what we should do is devise a plan to start making our way on to the next safety of the we can take refugees to a safe place."
Well, I doubt the architect wants us on the front lines, and there must be a back way out of here, and any smart army will surely have something blocking that exit. What say you to securing that exit? Then we will be one step closer to on our way to the next warning. But also, helping where we can.
I like that idea.
Everybody, if you would, please make a perception roll. So as you guys are kind of discussing this and begin to head in the direction that you think you will best be able to protect the retreat that you know will come, Kenji and Jin, the two of you overhear a small bit of conversation between two of the Mantis soldiers as they come rushing past you down the street, heading to the north of the town. And one of them says, "I heard there are glowing eyes in the woods. Eyes of fire." That's all you hear.
Hearing, well, I didn't hear that per se because I rolled only a 7. So I will leave it up to these guys to first tell me about it before I metagame this.
Eyes of fire. In the woods. That's what that man said just now as he ran by.
Eyes of fire in the woods. Now, racking my brain, fighting these things all the time. What would you... Nature, maybe? History?
Or Arcana, yeah. Any of the three, I would think.
I'll go with history only because that's my highest. Looking at, and that's still not that high at a 14. Would I know anything come to mind, even blurrily, about glowing eyes? Would that definitely like ping off as Oni to me?
Not necessarily. Again, kind of in this setting, Oni is less of a catch-all, and it's more a distinct kind of creature that is somewhat like an ogre or troll.
Okay.
And that definitely does not sound like it fits with that description, or at least not any Oni that you've heard of before. Nor does it really seem to fit much of anything, though there are some demons, evil spirits that have strange and unsettling features like this. So it's possible that it could be some form of demon. It definitely doesn't sound like anything that you remember about the Jakoshians, the barbarians that are invading.
We must investigate this further. We must know this threat.
Well, we know that from the army that we saw that none of them had glowing eyes. So hopefully these are just watchers and not allies that we didn't know about. But I do agree that we need to check it.
We also haven't seen their whole force. These could be other creatures, part of their armies that we haven't seen yet. I agree. We should investigate further.
Perhaps
It's going to be whether they're one threat or another. Any threat that marches against people of the cities, people should be aware of. We can do no help if we don't know them.
Jen, actually, is there? I would imagine there has to be at least a villager or something around the area, just in the vicinity. Yeah, Jen grabs one of them and says, "Can't remember what was the name of the inn that we were at."
I'm drawing a blank.
I can't remember it either. I think we randomly came up with it.
Yeah. Anyhow, he grabs a villager and he tells this villager to go to the tea house and seek out the elf by the name Obenaru, right? Close enough. Yeah, to seek him out, and tell him that we have requested his presence to the north gate. Orinotuo, yeah. And then he looks over at Tsuki and says, "Well, don't just stand there. Pay the man."
Kind of shaking his head, fishes in his pocket, pulls out like a copper, slaps it in the guy's hand. You do know I'm keeping tally of all these.
Yes, the riches in heaven shall be your just reward. And he just takes that copper quickly out of your hand, shoves it into the villager's hand and says, "Go, quickly."
Frightened, he seems somewhat bolstered by the coin that is given to him, and he nods emphatically and turns and runs, disappearing quickly into the ashen snow.
All of the rewards in heaven better be worth all that you owe me on land.
So
All in due time.
while we're kind of like preparing here and gathering to move, Kenji's gonna like run his fingers across the box one more time that Orinotuo has given them. He's gonna open it, once again revealing that flaming gem set within the belt. Well, he did say it was the belt of the Fire Guardian. Let's hope it can protect. And with that, he's gonna like take it out of the box, kind of holding it gingerly almost, not quite knowing what to expect. Before he like wraps it around his waist, clasping it around behind him. The red kind of standing out pretty drastically and almost garishly, I imagine, from like the light blue robes that he has, but he would nonetheless put it on.
And you feel a closeness with this garment as you've carried it with you, though it was in the box for a number of hours now, with it kind of on your mind. And you have found your focus, having been drawn to it, seems to have paid off. In when you put it on, you seem to, almost with a whisper, maybe one of your ancestors, you seem to kind of realize what it is that this belt will do. You have effectively attuned to this belt, which it must be in order to enact the latent powers that it has. There once were a total of 21 brilliant fire opals on this garment, but 11 of them have been used, leaving 11 charges remaining. The wearer of this belt may expend a charge, thus darkening the fire opal, or one of them, to summon a phoenix as a companion. While this phoenix is within 1 mile of the wearer, they gain the following effects. They have resistance to fire damage. In addition, you may use your action to have the phoenix attempt to deal fire damage to a target that you can see. If it is used as an attack, you are considered to be proficient, and the roll is made using your wisdom modifier. On a successful hit, the target takes 2d6 fire damage. And the last bit is if you are reduced to 0 hit points, you may use your reaction to draw the phoenix back into yourself in a flash. You are instantly reborn in a fiery burst, instead only being reduced to 1 hit point. And each creature within 10 feet of you takes fire damage equal to your level. The Phoenix companion returns to the girdle and may not be summoned again until you have finished a long rest.
Wow, do you see the fire behind his pupils? I think there's actually a shimmering coming from behind his eyes there.
Yes, I feel the presence of a great spiritual being.
I do not believe winter will harm you anymore, my friend.
So Kenji, now that you have placed this belt upon yourself, and you come to kind of understand the essence of this item, what is Kenji's reaction?
Kenji is perhaps surprisingly set into almost like a pensive mood as he kind of looks down and kind of like, I imagine he can almost like feel some of the fire from these enchanted gems kind of welling up within him, and like that eternal cold feeling that he has always felt, that is like only been furthered by the intense experience with the cold that has like permanently altered him now. Like there's now like this battle going on like within him of this like endless ice and now this new warm fire. Like he doesn't really know how to react to like not feeling cold for like the first time that he can possibly remember. He's like confused and concerned. But like after a short time, kind of like acceptance of the feeling washes over. And he just kind of like nods and he almost like straightens himself up further as if with some kind of new resolve. Yes, there's certainly a fire held within. One that should come to use, I hope. I'm ready. I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Maybe we can enlist the help of the halfling friend that Yoru has made, and maybe the guild would be willing to assist with transport of refugees in a diplomatic fashion.
As lovely as that sounds, my big friend, I do not believe we have time for all.
Well, we do need to get Yoru, so we could quickly ask if it's even a possibility and just leave her to task. For such a small woman, she is seems to have things in order.
Would it be possible to like we did to the elf, just send word to her to like meet us at the exit, or and
That works.
because I know your character Dave is kind of like old sworn to protect her, and that would definitely like play into my thoughts as we were looking at this. But at the same time, we got a horde coming in the front door. We're kind of thinking about going to secure the back door and check out these eyes in the woods.
Yep.
Not all too much time for diplomacy. Jin, would you please write some type of note of some sort to warn Yuri of where we will be and possible help in organizing a retreat? If she has these allies in this alliance, then she should be well at ease to convince them of our plight, and that having to fall back is going to be a necessity with this horde coming at us.
Yeah, so Jin would just find a prayer strip and very quickly, just with like some charcoal, just scribble something out. It's not elegant, it's not neat. It's very rough kanji, but it'll suffice. And then he just kind of like rolls it up into just like a little tiny scroll.
And Suki is already handing him the copper. Yes, another one on the tally.
Yeah. So with that, what he does is he actually will take one of his throwing darts and he will tie it off to one of the throwing darts, and he will then lightly step onto just some like awning and jump onto the rooftop. As he's going to make his way toward the north gate, he's just going to throw the dart with the message onto where the inn is around that area, and then shout out for somebody to deliver that message.
Somebody certainly looks like they are thinking the better of the situation before realizing that there is a coin tied to it, and nodding and running over to collect. And it seems like they, in fact, are going to fulfill your request. So, to the north gate it is for everyone.
Is the north? Isn't the north gate where the army's coming to? Because they're coming from the north.
Seems to be where everybody is headed at the moment.
I thought we were heading to the other side, to like southern gate, to secure that one.
No, we're going to the north gate to figure out what the glowing eyes is.
Okay.
So, you begin making your way to the northern side, and you're able to find yourself a vantage point, whether it be atop the roofs of New Chilang or along the semi-constructed walls. Looking out into the forest surrounding you that is blanketed in this black snow, you in fact do see many, many pairs of glowing eyes, the color of fire. And before long, shapes begin to emerge from the trees, making their way somewhat trudgingly through the snow. And the first thing that you realize is, aside from their eyes, is that they appear to be dressed as refugees, mantis and dragon, wearing the colors of the common folk of their clans. But something's off. The way that they're shifting and moving forward, they're almost gliding through the snow, much easier than they really have any business doing. And if you're not mistaken, it actually looks like the snow itself might be melting, parting, to allow them to approach.
Really quick, 18 perception check to see if one of these little things sliding through the snow is the little boy that Luke wanted to go back and save and talk to.
Aida.
Do we recognize anybody?
Though you have looked for anyone that you might recognize, you don't see anybody that you recognize. Kenji, if you wish, just give me a d20 roll.
17.
Okay. However, Kenji, you do recognize one of the dragon refugees from a village that is much further south than Maichaki in the Dragon Clan lands. And why don't you tell us who it is that you see, that you recognize?
So Kenji, this man, just dressed in just the common dragon clothes, kind of blending in with the crowd of these people. But immediately this man stepped out. This distance, it's hard to be totally sure, but the resemblance is too uncanny to pass. Gets into the crowd, realizing that his finger is probably lost, but he can't help but do it himself. I've seen him before. If he is there, then they're already much further south, even than we would have thought. They've moved quickly. I don't know what's happened to him. It was Akihiko. He was nothing but a mere swordsmith in one of the villages. Two blades that the samurai would use. He was an honorable man. What have they done to him? And to everybody else?
You can see that these individuals are badly burned. Their skin charred the same black gray that the snow has taken on. Their clothes are singed tatters, and their belongings, what little they may have had whenever they fled their homes, likewise burned and singed. Before long, the smell of cooking flesh wafts to you through the winter air. And you can see that they are smoldering, these refugees, as they shuffle towards the walls. And the Mantis Clan samurai all stare, horrified, as they approach.
Yeah, Jin shouts out, "Do not touch them!"
From somewhere amongst the forces of Mantis, a retainer for the samurai calls out, "How are we supposed to fight them if we cannot touch them?"
Do not touch them with your hands.
Arrows!
Collect yourself, my brothers. We are Mantis. Catch them like flies. Pin them to the ground. Make sure they cannot move. They'll easily dispatch from that point on. But harden your souls.
These are no longer your clansmen. Get beyond love and grief. Let's exist for the good of man now. For that's all we have.
So now that the four of you have seen the nature of the fiery eyes in the woods, is the plan to try to remain here and help repel these creatures? Or do you wish to head across town to the south and see what you can do there?
I think it would be not even a conscious thought for Suki. He would be drawing his weapons. He'd be preparing to fight. Just seeing this horde come in, It's probably going to take one of the other guys to be like, no, 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 no. Like, we need to go do what our plan was and secure the rear. Because Kenji said, if they've already gotten more farther south than we know of, they're probably coming up on our ass end too. But right now, that would not be his train of thought. Just putting that out there.
How far close to us is the line of soldiers that you were referencing?
If you're up on the wall, then you're amongst them. So, one of them would probably be directly beside you.
I would imagine that for a moment, actually, Luke kind of steps back and mentally and just sort of turns to the guy next to him, and he says, "Bo," and he says basically a command to pass the word, because he was a son of a noble, so he used to give orders in situations of an attack. So he actually slips and he just says, "Bo, grab the arrows, prepare to fire."
He kind of hesitates for a moment, looking at you and realizing that you're not of Mantis Clan, but you can see that common sense takes over. And he says, yes, arm yourselves. Come, fire. We should all be firing. Shoot. As he's loading his own Yumi, and the arrows begin to sail downward from the walls.
And Luke, as he's looking at him, he starts to realize, oh, right. And he kind of steps back and sort of melts into his party as we start making our way from the wall, I would imagine, because we're going to start heading south. Hopefully they get right?
That's the question that he's kind of asking us, is if we're staying to fight, or... I've already commented to the fact that Suki's, like, he's prepping to fight. Like, all thoughts of fleeing out of his mind. It's going to be up to you guys to convince him at this point.
So Jin has a bond that basically it states, my isolation has given me a great insight into a great evil that only I can destroy. Would that bond give me insight? Is this something that I know that we can actually fight, or that we have the means to fight at this time? Or is this something that we're best trying to get away from?
Alan, roll me a perception check. And if you're not normally proficient with it, you can be proficient with this roll.
Okay. I got a 15.
Okay. So you have seen one of these smoldering refugees who has gotten close enough to the wall before it was shot and kind of pinned in place or taken down. And you notice that the charred skin, though it's blackened, you can still kind of make out these markings upon their flesh, their faces, their arms. Everywhere where you can see skin, you can see these kind of markings that are even darker than the rest of the charred flesh. If you could also make an Arcana roll for me.
Just put it out there. You got inspiration.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and use that as well.
Okay.
Much better, 18.
Okay. You are fairly certain that these are the markings of an abjurer, a protective kind of caster. And you know that this kind of practice is sometimes carried out when things like forest fires happen or other natural disasters, that sometimes abjurers will write out protective runes upon the people that they serve, the village that they serve, in order to try to plead with the spirits of whatever particular natural disaster, to try to prevent or to show them mercy, effectively. Your guess would be that these were spells that were meant to guard these people against fire, but quite obviously something went way, way wrong. And from this distance, without being able to study it closer, you're just not sure beyond that.
Yeah, Jin comes to this realization, and he turns to his companions, and he doesn't look shocked, but he does look taken aback in the sense that he says, "Their souls, they're trapped in those bodies. The wards that have been placed upon their flesh have anchored them here. They do not look like it, but they are suffering. These people are suffering."
Suki just kind of nods his head. My friend, looking upon that helpless thing down there, I see nothing but suffering.
Kinji, their souls are trapped in their body by magic. Perhaps you know of a way of dispelling such a spell.
I'm afraid such things are beyond my current ability. I have no means by which I could do that.
Turning to Jin, Suki would ask, do you have any, like, holy anointed water or anything on you? I know sometimes you carry them for your rituals.
Not in this capacity. This is... We have to get everybody... We have to get as many as we can out of here. We have to secure the retreat.
Suki would still be hesitating. But these... Look at them. Can we really walk away from this? I know. But none of these people are going to retreat until it's almost too late to retreat. I don't know if more will survive if we are here or not.
When the tsunami comes, you can only seek the high ground.
What if we're the ones who would turn the tide? But then we leave these people to fend for themselves. Perhaps they all die. And we could have helped. But then
I'm not saying that we leave the people. I'm saying that we get as many of them out of the city as possible.
So, make our way back to the south, spreading the word for all to head that way, all the peasantry? Or, better yet, leave word with other people? More notes along the way? And he kind of jingles his purse a little bit. Or if there is anything at that south gate, we're going to have to secure it first, and having a lot of fodder around for them to kill is not going to be ideal either.
It seems to be the best course. Is that what you're suggesting, Jen?
It is.
We best get moving then.
So then the plan is to head to the south of New Chilang, trying to round up as many innocents and non-combatants as you can along the way and urge them to spread the word to head to the south gate with the intent of fleeing the city. Is that correct? Okay.
Reluctantly, Suki would kind of shake his head to that notion.
As you pull yourself from the wall and begin moving southward, several of the Mantis call your honor into question as you flee the known battle. But none of them stop you. It appears that they have more important things to take care of, in their minds at least. You find plenty of scared villagers curious about what's going on and how it might impact them. And when they see the uncertainty and the fear in you, they very quickly heed your warnings and begin trying to get their belongings together, grabbing necessities and valuables only. And beginning to hurriedly try to make their way towards the south part of the city as fast as they can. But you would easily arrive there first, as these people have other people with them, elderly children, and belongings that they have to gather. So you would be the head of the pack, as it were, as you arrived to the south. That's a great point, Alan, actually, yeah. Yeah, each one of you have a personal honor score, if I'm not mistaken. That is going to take a 2-point hit. It'll drop by 2 points.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, boss.
You may not. We may have skipped over it for this one.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that.
Okay. Scratch that then. It was something I had as part of my in-person long-running campaign. And I think, thinking back on it, I think we did opt out of using it for this game. So never mind.
I don't even remember talking about it. Otherwise, like I would have been like, yeah, no. Like decisions like that would totally factor into your honor in that.
Mm-hmm. We'll just keep it RP instead of making it mechanical.
At the same time, securing a retreat when you know that the battle is lost is not a bad. That's fairly honorable too.
Yes, it's true. However, unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to public perception. But, so you have arrived at the southern gate, where there is only a small contingency of Mantis Clan soldiers still present. And they see you approaching at the head of this throng. And they look very, very concerned. And they call out well before you're within reasonable talking distance. You there, what's going on? What's happening?
The enemy is approaching. We have to make sure that every able body, every innocent is able to get out of the city before it is overrun.
The barbarians are here?
No. Something more foul. Something not of the earthly plane.
You mean demons? Oni?
Dark force to be sure.
There may be some of them working with them, but the main force should be the Jakoshians, which are mighty brutish barbarians from the north, and who knows what devils they bring with them. One thing we know for sure, we have already experienced this horde, and an army of this size is not one that's going to stop them. As well fought and trained as my brother Mantis are, they can only hope to slow them down.
Where are you leading these people?
Are these just regular soldiers at the gate, or are these actually highborn?
You have a feeling that they are probably at least somewhat well-born, but not of houses that are of import, that are of great import at least. They definitely seem to be lower-ranking soldiers.
The army is here to protect the city, the people. For without the people, there is no city. So, we are taking these refugees to a safer place. Now, your job was to protect this gate, not to stop us. We're more than happy to protect these people. Just guard our retreat.
What if the barbarians are outside?
What if they are? Did you sign up to sit on your ass and get fat?
The one that you've kind of
Is
been
that why you serve?
the one you've been kind of making this exchange with kind of puffs his chest out. No, I am Mantis. You should hold your tongue, Ronan.
Well, then you answered your own question, didn't you, young lad?
He kind of looks like he's about to get roped into saying something that he probably shouldn't further. And one of his fellows kind of just nudges him with his elbow. Let's just open the gate. Let them go if they want. And then they move to begin unbarring the doors.
Sugi would kind of speak up at this, and I would highly recommend that for now you shut the gates behind us. keep an eye on these people. But at some point, they will need to flee out of this gate. It'll be on you to open it and let them out. We will do our best to secure the passage. And if, for some reason, the Mantis Clan holds off the tide, they will still be safely within your walls. But no, there is nothing wrong with being prepared to save the people if it needs to come to that.
They kind of look as though they've taken your words to heart and solemnly nod without much of a reply. They swing the gates open to reveal the black and white covered landscape, the forest that stretches out to the south of Chilang, New Chilang. And there is no sign of any adversaries, as the people of New Chilang begin pouring out of the gate, with or without you.
Didn't I say to shut the gate behind me?
Yeah, I would say we would remain last. Like, we would try to ensure that people got out. That way, if any enemies actually got into the city, we could hold them, or try to hold them off as long as we could.
So it sounds like there's no enemies beyond the gate, and they've opened the gates, and we see that. And it's pretty open on this approach to this gate, is what we're gathering. And so I'm thinking that our exit is clear at this time. So we could probably just... Is that what you're saying, Jeremy?
It certainly appears to be, yes.
It might be good for us to step out, have them close the gate, and we can check the perimeter to be sure quickly, and then allow them to start exiting. What do you think? Kenji? Okay, so Luke steps out and begins perceiving the terrain and looking for threats. And that is an 18 perception.
Okay, so you're kind of holding the villagers back for a moment, making them remain as you kind of go to kind of scout things out.
Yeah.
Okay. So they let you through the gates first, and you make your way out into the snowy landscape, begin looking around, and it's still here in quiet, the kind of quiet that, like, really comes with a heavy snowfall. The kind of muffled silence, and the only real noise you hear is the crunching of your own footfalls as you're walking along the snow. Though there is the distant sound of battle coming from the northern side of the town, and the darkening sky is not so dark on the north side of town. In fact, it's rather orange and glowy.
Okay. Well, It appears to be clear for now. I think we need to make our move.
Looking out of this gate, what does the terrain look like? I figure there's like a road heading out from the gate. Would there be like, because you said that there's a harbor, right? The harbor would probably be on like the, if we're looking out of the gate, looking south, the harbor would kind of be on the left-hand side. Woods on the right.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, I believe it would be, the river would be on your right.
On the right, so woods would be like woods, and further land would be on our left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, this picture here is of Nuchi Lang. Let me see if I can of Nuchi Lang 20 years from now. I wasn't able to really find a good picture that shows it kind of its past. But essentially here you can see the palace being built. And this is the river here. You guys would essentially be coming out the southern gate, which would be on this bank over here and much further off screen down here. So yeah, whenever you're coming out of the gate, the river would be on character right. And the Mantis Clan lands themselves are the kind of mountains that you see in a lot of Chinese movies that are kind of real tall, elongated peaks and very virulent. There are lots and lots of waterfalls and very lush forests all in this area here. Many of which are frozen currently, the waterfalls, that is.
Secondly, do we see any of like, cover the base here, would they be able to bring their boats upriver? Would we know that at all? Or is there too many waterfalls and like little things that wouldn't allow their ships to come upriver? Like they're definitely going to be on foot.
Well, you would be downriver from where the Dragon Clan lands are. So you're further south, and they flow out of the mountains, coming towards the shore, pretty much running through most of the empire, going this direction.
Okay, so what you're saying is that they wouldn't have brought boats up. Okay, so we don't even have, there wouldn't be any boats. Suki, as Luke walks out, Suki would kind of be right behind him, swords in his hand, and he would definitely be lining himself up on the left-hand side, knowing full well that from looking there, the odds of an attack coming from the right-hand side in the water is slim to none. So he knows that covering that left flank is going to be the way to go.
So it sounds like you are secure in the knowledge that the escape route seems unhindered, and you're going to begin leading the villagers out of Nuchi Lane. Is that the consensus?
No. You're gonna kill everybody, aren't you? He's gonna make us pay for this honorable deed of trying to save the people harshly. It's gonna be beautiful. Make it hurt, dude. Make it hurt.
Oh my God, that's a dragon in the sky.
So this rather large group of commoners begins shuffling their way out into the harshness of the Tsitian winter, this particularly hard winter, with just what they could gather in a few moments. And it's going to take some time, as Nuchi Lang has exploded as far as its population goes in recent years. So it sounded like Luke and Tsukiko at the very least, were planning on being kind of at the head of this herd. Is that where all 4 of you are, or is that assessment correct?
Correct on my part.
I think Kenji would probably like put himself like a little bit further back into the crowd, kind of basically like in the event that they need to get information back, he wants to be kind of a little bit more in the middle to the back of this crowd. That way, if something comes from behind, he can be ready to meet it that way, and he can help to pass along information as needed.
Yeah, I imagine that Jin would be with Kenji, so that we don't split up too much.
Okay. And just again, so that we are on the same page, the crowd of villagers that you're leading has probably ballooned to the size of probably nearing 200 people or so. So it's a large group. And as Kenji and Jin are kind of passing through the southern gate, there are some screams that kind of erupt from the rear of the group. Just about the time that you register where they're coming from, you hear the sound of fire as you see a flash of orange light cast long shadows as it flares up behind you somewhere.
Are we still near the guards at the gate? Oops, sorry.
With that, Kenji would immediately kind of jump at the sight of this burst of orange in the screams, and would try to begin like pushing backwards through the crowd, almost like a. Imagine it'd be tough given that they're going in the opposite direction as he is, but he would try to like shoulder past people as best as he could to try to figure out what the source of it was.
And especially the villagers now begin kind of pushing and moving quickly to exit the gate faster. And Tsukiko and Luke were able to hear the screams, but you are at the head of this herd that is now very quickly trying to flood out of this gate. Kenji, it is difficult to kind of swim upriver, if you will, but you are making some progress. Jin, what are you doing?
I mean, Jin would definitely be going with Kenji again, like just not trying to separate us out too much. So he would just be following in suit, trying to keep up pace with Kenji, trying to figure out what is going on.
It takes quite a bit of pushing, but Kenji and Jin, you see that there are a small amount of these smoldering individuals who have managed to find ways into the city, probably because the walls are not completed yet, or perhaps they've breached the northern wall in the gate. But regardless, they have found their way to the backside of this group of villagers, and it looks as though they are beginning to kill some of them by claw and by fire. Tsukiko and Luke, what are the two of you doing?
So you said that we definitely heard the blast kind of deal. We're just happen to be caught up in this trout run per se. I think looking back, and if we can see that these husk, for lack of a better word, are on the attack, I definitely end up like, come on, we gotta get back, and try to once again, per se, swim against the current.
Yeah, and I would imagine that Luke has got his naginata out because it allows him to do some sort of control, because it's a halberd in essence. So, well, he begins shouting to make a hole as he starts moving his naginata back and forth and starts fighting his way up the current. Maybe doing an athletics to try to even muscle people, not hurt people, but try to get back through, and even maybe jumping over people and rushing to the back as quickly as possible.
Yeah, go ahead and make me, an athletics check would work. And you can do it at advantage since it sounds like Tsukiko is trying to at least come with you and help.
That is a 25.
Excellent. Okay. So between shouting and using, the non-lethal part of your weapon to brush these people aside, you make decent progress, and you find yourselves kind of back at the gate essentially as you're passing through, and you can see that the soldiers are, some of them are heading towards the sound as well, towards the outside of the crowd, while others seem to be staying near the gate itself. And you can barely make out Kinji and Jin, who have forced their way back through the crowd as well. Kinji and Jin, you're kind of coming up on the scene, as it were, of where these creatures are decimating these people. So if you had not already, go ahead and roll your Kung Fu dice pool so that you can have that as part of your turn as well. And out of the two of you, Jin, you would be first.
All right. Yeah. So I would imagine Jin is having a tough time kind of moving through this crowd. So I would, I'm going to go ahead and spin one of my key points to give me Step of the Wind, which is going to allow me to disengage or dash as a bonus action on my turn, and I can also jump. My jump distance is doubled. So basically, I'm just going to use all of my momentum to move through these people, whether I'm running through them as fast as I can, or even if I have to, I guess kind of like running atop them, like on their shoulders, to kind of get to. I want to get in front of this thing, is what I'm trying to do.
With the lightness of foot that your clan has practiced for generations, the flight of the crane comes somewhat naturally to your people, and you're able to leap and stride across these people's shoulders, maybe even heads in a couple cases, without causing them any more concern than is already being caused as they're shoving into one another, trying to get out of this situation as fast as they can. And you make rapid progression towards where this situation is unfolding at the back. What do you wish to do whenever you get there?
I would definitely move in and quickly try to like just defend. Like if it was attacking somebody, then I would like try to move in and try to just kind of dispatch it or push it back into some shape or form. I guess it basically just attack it.
Absolutely. Okay. So go ahead and roll that up and let's see what it looks like.
I'm going to use inspiration on that. All right, that's going to be a 16 to hit.
Yes, that will absolutely make contact.
All right. So that's going to be 10 piercing. So yeah, so Jin would move in, and as he's just kind of like gliding through everybody, he draws his sword and just kind of holds it straight out as it just kind of hums in the air, and as if he's cutting the wind itself. He's like a charging spear as he lances through one of these creatures, and you can hear that like. Normally, it would be kind of like a wet sound as the blade enters into a normal person, but since this person is charred, it has that like crunch as if going into like charred wood. It's just kind of like as it sticks in and like pokes out the backside.
And there is smoke and steam and fire that kind of emits from the wound that you've just made. Once again, as if maybe poking a hole through charcoal or a log that has been left on the fire overnight. And this thing is gravely injured, but it looks at you with anger in its face, in its twisted, contorted face. And these orbs of orange light simply narrow for a moment. And it looks like this thing is still alive. Kenji. It's your turn.
Kenji like pushes past the rest of the crowd, as much of it as he could make it through with the rest of his movement. And then once he's within a reasonable part where there's not so much crowd that he can't see what's going on anymore, he like brings up a hand. As he does so, there's like streaks of clouds that seem to follow his hand motions, which then turn into like streams of water. He like forms this stream into like a singular, almost like a column that narrows at the end. As he kind of puts his hand forward, it's gonna like fly forward, and as it does so, it begins to freeze into a spear as he casts a ray of frost. 19 to hit. I'm going for the one that Alan's already hit.
Okay. And yes, these things have no armor on them at all, relying only on their considerable agility. However, that is still accurate enough to hit them with very little problem. And
all right, that's going to be 9 frost damage.
So, describe to me what it looks like when this spell will kill this individual refugee, and the damage from this particular cold spell is considerably more than you may have expected at first.
Yeah, so like he expects this like iced spear just to like punch through it, just like a spear would, just hoping to rip into it. But as the spear like lodges in, there's just like this hissing sound, as the like flaming body of them begins to like react with this now just complete frozen ice. There's like this blast of steam, almost like dry ice, that begins like going from it. The cold begins to like creep up around from where the wound was. As like this heat, this fire that seems to surround these things is like gradually put out by this cold, almost as if it was like draining the warmth from it as it goes.
And as it kind of makes that crackling noise again, as it almost seems to kind of slowly seize up, as the light in its eyes begins to dim. It then explodes in a violent burst of, in this case, both ice and fire, catching Jin inside the effect. Jin, if you would please make a dexterity save.
That is going to be 17.
Okay. However, either somewhat expectantly or just by sheer luck, there was enough between you and it whenever it exploded that you managed to avoid the worst of it, and you only take 2 points of fire damage. Kenji, was there anything else with your turn that you wish to do?
With that, Kenji would just like yell out, just anyone who can fight, make it back towards the gate. Get the townspeople away. Get them to safety. Just like trying to make sure that people are rallying. But other than that, that's his turn.
Okay. So that brings us back to Luke and Tsukiko. Luke, for the moment. As you are about even with the gate, about halfway through this crowd, and can kind of see the explosion that occurs at the backside of this crowd, and you're fairly certain you heard the sounds of Jin casting his magic, and you know that you saw Jin flitting across the tops of some of these individuals. So what are you doing, Luke?
Are these smoldering refugees in somewhat of a line or loose line?
No, there doesn't really seem to be much of a tactic, if you will. You can see 3 of them two of them remaining that seem to be kind of chasing down stragglers at the back of this group of villagers. And you can see more of them that look like they are making their way towards this fray.
All right, so using the similar to what Jen did, but because the goat clan does it better, the goat navigates ledge. I'd like to use that. It's a 2-point spend, and basically I'll have advantage on acrobatics checks concerning balancing or footing to do similar as he kind of moves over to the 3 that are attacking, and basically takes his if you'll allow me, I want to take my naginata and sort of choke up right to the end and just do like a big baseball swing with them, trying to knock the three of them back, not necessarily trying to harm them as much as trying to push them away from the target of that they're going for. Does that work?
Okay. Do you have a point of inspiration you can spend? That you're willing to spend?
I do not currently.
Didn't he just give you one not too long ago?
I think that was for Jen.
I'll give you one of mine, bro. You can use it. Either way, if he allows it.
Yes. Yeah, you guys absolutely can give them amongst each other.
Well, thank you.
No problem, boss.
Okay. So with spending that point of inspiration, yes, I'm perfectly okay with you not attacking, but essentially making up to 3 targets back off.
Okay. So that's going to be kind of an attack roll. So it's an 18 to hit.
Yes. So essentially what I'm going to be having this do is you are making 3 of them kind of fall back, but as a part of this, you're also able to make contact with one of them.
Okay. Let's roll damage on one of them.
Yeah.
All right. So that is a total of 13 points of damage.
Likewise, you make a significant wound on this thing, drawing your Naginasa's blade kind of across his torso, and you're kind of somewhat surprised at the heat that comes pouring forth, but it's not enough to take this individual down. And you think you actually catch for a moment inside the rather large wound that you just caused with this blade that the fire that's burning inside this individual almost shrinks away from the opening for a moment. It definitely seems to have a cognizance about it.
Interesting. And can I use the action surge?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So in swinging it around and slashing that one, I'm going to bring it up and around and reposition my grip and then thrust on the same one that I just hit.
Okay.
That is a 17 to hit.
Yes, absolutely connects.
So 12 points of damage.
And what does it look like as you take this one down?
So with this one, I slashed probably its chest open, and I saw the fire recede, and I kind of like my eyes bulged for a second, and then I kind of clenched my teeth, and then just brought it around and just thrust it right back into it, and sort of lifted up into its rib cage a little, and then just kind of slumped it off the back of the off my naginata. As the thing probably slumps back off the weapon.
It does. It falls off of the weapon and kind of lands on the ground, almost cut completely in half. And you notice the edges of this cut, the first slash that you made, kind of peeling away almost the way a log does whenever it burns to the point of kind of drying out. And as it does so, it then explodes. But you have enough warning to kind of, roll your back towards it, just enough to avoid the worst of this fiery burst, as you take 2 points of fire damage as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I would imagine that I'm still using the goat navigates ledge, which gives me an advantage on acrobatics. So I kind of like do sort of this back roll out of the way as this thing explodes.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a There's a cart nearby that is kind of overturned, and you very nimbly kind of jump backwards without even looking and land in such a way that you're able to basically crouch just as this thing erupts. There is two that are still in the immediate area, and there are others that are beginning to close. One of them closes with Kenji, one of them closes with Jin, and the other closes with Luke. All of them rushing forward. And Kenji, the one that comes at you, moves forward and opens his mouth, his teeth kind of charred and smoking, opens his jaw a little further than is natural, and there's kind of a popping sound, and again that crinkling snap as the cheek muscles that have been charred kind of separate, and fire erupts from his mouth. If you would please give me a dexterity saving throw.
Four.
4 is not going to be enough to get out of the way, as you take 5 points of fire damage. Luke, the one that comes at you, reaches out with a clawed hand and attempts to rake it across you. What is your armor class, sir?
17.
And the claws just scratch along the surface of your armor as he barely misses.
Okay, and Luke spends a superiority die for a repost, so when he misses me, I can attack with my reaction.
Excellent.
So that is a 23 to hit. And that is 12 points of damage. So as it lashes out, it kind of, I kind of block with the naginata and then repost with the return with the blade and give him some of the steel.
Yeah, it kind of reached out with this claw and probably snapped off a few of its fingertips as it met your armor, and you push it back with your the shoulder, and it comes off again just like cutting a burnt twig or a log. The naginata just severs it with ease. The third one closes with Jin, likewise reaching out with these almost talon-like hands and trying to make contact with him, but Jin, you're just too nimble, and this thing's not able to find purchase with you. Jin, it is your turn.
Yeah, so I imagine as this thing like tries to come and like claw at Jin, like you said, he's just kind of like nimbly weaving, just kind of going through muscle memory as he would perform katas, as he kind of just moves around. The claw is just kind of out of the reach, and he retaliates in kind with his sword. As one of the arms stretches out, he's gonna just kind of like flick his sword. That will try to like just kind of like if he's cutting at reeds, it'd be like that arm, as he just kind of moves in. I'm gonna use my flurry of blows. I'll spend a key point for that and make 3 attacks. All right, so The only one I'm not sure about is the first one, which was a total of 13. All the rest of them were above 18.
Even you said it was a 13?
Yeah, it was a 13, and the other 2 attacks were above 18.
Yes. All of those will hit.
Okay. So 18, 7, 27 piercing damage, and I will go ahead and use yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and spend 2 of my kung fu dice. So as I sit there and I just chop away at this thing, just whittling it down, I'm gonna go ahead and use a flying jump kick and deal another 3 points of damage to it as I fly kick right into its chest.
And what does that bring the total to?
29, 30.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me how you take this one down.
So, yeah, as it's coming in, like I said, I kind of like sweep my sword and it like takes off one of the arms, just like mid forearm, and then he tries to come in with the other one, and that one gets swept away. The third one kind of like opens up its gut, as you kind of see like smoldering embers just kind of in there versus intestines, and then with a couple of steps, he moves in and fly kicks right into its chest, and as he does so, it's almost like trying to pick up something that's made out of ash that's been burnt too much, and it just turns into this like puff of just black smoke, like this ash that just all around him as he lands, as he basically kicks through it.
And as your foot kind of passes through this ashy portion of the torso, the heat that erupts as this thing disintegrates envelops you, and you'll need an additional dexterity saving throw, if you would, please. Excellent. Nicely done.
Yeah, nat 20.
So you managed to avoid the fire damage that erupts from this thing altogether. And that brings us to Kiko. If you would just kind of describe how you've managed to make your way through the remainder of the crowd to join this conflict.
Actually, I have an interesting thought on that. I'm going to be spending 2 of my points here to do what is it? Stalk the prey, where you choose a target and you can move whenever it moves. Can I pick a teammate as a target as long as if they move, I move? What I'm thinking is Luke is definitely a bigger presence than me, and all I can think of is Princess Bride, where he's like, everybody move. So he's going through the crowd, and I'm just in his wake.
Yeah, sure. That works.
So I'm almost thinking like picking him as the target of movement to go along with that.
Right, yeah. As, you know, Mantis, you know, one of the big things is kind of mimicking footwork, you know, and so you just basically fall into step, literally, you know, with him, almost becoming his shadow, and you're able to move through the crowd with ease because of Luke's presence.
Now, my next question is the one that he ended up reposting. Did that one end up dying, or is that one still standing?
It went down. No, wait. I'm sorry. No. The one that
I know he killed one.
Yeah, that was the one that he killed on his turn. The one that he reposted is still up.
Okay, so coming in hot on his heels, he ends up stabbing and reposting this thing, and You said that he's kind of like there would be technically in front of us like an overturned cart.
Yes.
Okay. Coming in, I'm going to use one die, and if you want, I'll use an inspiration die for this too. He has riposted him. You literally see this little thin mantis man come flipping over the top of both of them, landing on the opposite side of this gentleman, of the like husk type guy, hooking both of those dragon hook head. The hooks on the dragon head hook swords right around this thing's throat, and I'm going to yank almost like flipping it over my shoulder kind of deal, like you would with an arm flip, but using the double hooks on the head to flip. And I'm going to try to throw this thing right into the cart, hopefully flipping the cart over and like covering it, so that way, knowing full well, seeing several of these things explode, that maybe that will kind of cover the explosion and nobody will get hit from it.
Nice. Okay. So go ahead and make your attacks. And
you want me to just make one attack since I'm using both of them together?
Yeah.
For leverage? Okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
Now, do you want me to use inspiration for anything?
No, everything you described is perfectly cool.
All right. 18 to start, boss. And that's before adding my 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem hitting it at all.
All right. And I think we agreed that if I use them as a double, it's a D8 instead of a D6 with reach or something like that.
Yeah, it's not versatile because you get reach in place of versatile, so it's still the same damage die type.
Okay. So just a D6. Looking at 8 points of damage as I flip this thing into the cart as hard as I can, like total reef. I literally ripped this thing off the end of his naginata. So it's probably doing damage as I'm reefing this thing off of him and just whipping this thing into this crate, this cart as it tumbles.
And from where it had already been fairly well damaged from Luke's naginata, your hook swords throw it into this cart, at least the largest part of it, as the cart kind of rights itself somewhat as the weight of this wooden charred husk collapses inside of it. And then, yes, just an instant later, it explodes, sending all of this heat and pieces of charred flesh just skyward, the side of the wagon, protecting both you and Luke from these this burst. And that brings us to Kenji.
Yeah, Kenji's kind of like got his arms up trying to defend from this blast of fire that he just took. But he shakes it off as best as he can. Closing in with this thing. I'm actually going to use a kung fu thing for I think the first time actually. As like ice begins to like form on his hands, almost like claws as he moves up. And it's going to be the lowest is a 13, which I think hits.
Yes, yeah, these things have an AC of 12, so you guys have not had any problems hitting them at all.
Perfect. Yeah, as he like slashes with these 2 claws, just one attack then another, just leaving these like 3 slashes across. It's going to do 3 damage as part of the kung fu move. And then the ice kind of forms up into almost like a blade that he then like plunges straight into this thing, which is going to be my regular action for another Ray of Frost, which is going to hit and it's 9 damage on the die, but if they have vulnerability, it'll be 18. So it'll be a total of 21 damage.
All right. And what does it look like as you just succeeds in taking this one down once again because of the ice?
Yeah, like there's like the couple slashes of the ice like forms almost like a blade off of his hands, which he just like runs straight into this thing. There's another hissing of steam as he kind of rips the blade down and out, just letting this huge burst of steam out as the ice melts from his hand. And then I'm assuming shortly after he has to try to shield himself again from yet another explosion, which he will get a 4.
4? Okay, once again, that's not quite a quick enough reaction to avoid, as you take 4 more points of fire damage when the one explodes.
Yeah, Kenji tries to like jump back away from it, but he's not nearly the acrobat that is are. So he like tries to jump back, but like it still catches him. He's not quick enough and he doesn't jump far enough.
And you have killed many of these things. And it seems like you've managed to stop the ones that have made it this far south in the city. And the villagers continue to exit the south gate as quickly as they can. And it sounds like the tide of the battle may be turning in the Mantis' favor on the north side of New Chilang as well. Though the casualties will be considerable when they're measured. And there are portions of the town that will need to be rebuilt, as much of it is on fire now. And as you're able to get a closer look at some of the pieces from these smoldering refugees, it's probably Jin who is able to tell that these rituals that were written out on their skin that was intended to protect them from fire, that they were done hastily, likely because there was only a few abjurers who were able to attempt this for so many individuals and on short notice. And there were some mistakes that were definitely made. It appears that these mistakes instead invited the fire spirits to possess these individuals instead of leaving them alone, granting them mercy. But these individuals found mercy at last, even if it was at the end of fist or blade or spell. And for the moment at least, it seems that the Mantis Clan city of New Chilang has been protected. As we pan away from the city, the snow mixed with the ash and the orange glow of the fires that burn slowly become picturesque, as if made by an artist's hand. As we once again find ourselves in this mural, this palace walls painting. And we see our 5 individuals, now that Yoru has joined them. And we begin to shift towards a different part of the mural. And what we see there will have to be disclosed next time. So that's all I've got for tonight, guys. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up here and send you all off to bed. So before I give my parting thoughts, etc., we'll go ahead and pass it off to the players here for their outros. So Jeff, why don't you take us out?
Yep, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel called Counterbalance, and I do a podcast. Jeremy here, as well as soon to be Chad Nick. Next episode should be coming out hopefully sooner rather than later. So check those out if you're so inclined. And yeah, good time as always. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. A pleasure as always. And Scott.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Scott, and Excellent game as always, dude. Wonderfully run. It took a little bit to remember what was going on and get back into it, but the role play, when it's like riding a bike. Once you do it once and you do it well, you're all good. Thank you for making me a liar and telling this guy that this place is going to get totally run over, and then like apparently it's not. So yeah, all that dramatic for nothing.
The winter is young.
But yeah, awesome game, dude. Great to play with all you guys again. Really loved it. Gonna have to get another game. Schedule that the whatever that thingy doodle is.
Absolutely, yeah. Hopefully, we'll get a game in here December, but it is the holidays, so we'll have to kind of see how that works out. And if we don't do December, we'll absolutely do January.
And definitely check out all the links to everybody else's stuff.
Definitely. All right, Dave.
Hey folks, Dave with Mornblade Gaming. Always a fun time kicking it Wuxia style with these gentlemen, and missing Carol tonight, unfortunately, but she'll be back for the next one. She's enjoying family vacation. That's necessary. But yes, exploding zombies. Awesome. Looking forward to the next session. I think we should petition to make Jeremy draw that mural out for us. And every time it changes.
Yeah. I love you guys, but not that much.
Carol will do it.
There we go. There we go. All right. Last but certainly not least, Alan.
Yep, name's Alan, and it was a great game as always. Jeremy, love the setting. Everybody did a great job playing their characters, everything. Agreed. Missing Carol, our fifth element there in the party, but hopefully she'll be able to join us next time. I mean, overall, just always have a blast playing with you guys. So. Again, Jeremy, thank you for running it and letting us be a part of your Oriental Adventures setting.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Yeah, guys, I've been Jeremy. This is the Erasmus Expeditions. This was episode 4, session 4, whatever you want to call it, of the Ashes of Heaven. And yeah, it's been a blast. I love this setting. I love playing with you guys. You guys bring this setting to life in a really fun, very, very deep way. And you really kind of all embrace it and just take it and run with it, which is a lot of fun to watch and try to react to. So I'm very much looking forward to our next session and kind of seeing how this continues to unfold and develop. So, yeah, I don't have anything else to say other than that, yeah, we're missing Carol. Definitely check out everybody's links down below. And, yeah, hopefully we'll catch you guys in December. So until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.